Yeah, today going to be going over if my first independent connector that I put out there. Natalie's been emailing me over the past many months to do something, and I finally got around to it. Decided to do it for Mockaroo. So a great website I've been using for many, many years to generate test data. Obviously we all work in an agile environment. Sometimes our customers do not give us spreadsheets when we ask for them of sample data and stuff, right? Or maybe it's PII or things like that, right? Where we don't want to have that in a UAT system or something. So Mockaroo has always been great for that. So decided to do my first independent connector on that one. Just to give you guys a little bit of background on me. I'm a principal consultant with Microsoft Federal. My full name is Richard A. Wilson. So if you ever see raw on my stuff, that's why. These are all my social media links. Please feel free to check them out, subscribe, all that other good stuff. I try to post occasionally, with as much Dynamics and Power Platform stuff as I can. I've been in this community about 16 years. Started off with Microsoft Dynamics CRM 3.0 and a little bit of 1.2. So I've been doing this for a little bit of a while and really have enjoyed the community and all the people that are part of this community. So thank you all for just being on this call. So Mockaroo, again, as I mentioned, creating test data, right, and generating all that test data. So some of the features here, creating saved schemas, being able to create a customized data schema. They have a huge, I'll use the word plethora again, of pre-configured data types that you can select from, or you can bring your own data sets. So if you have CSV files and other things that your customers are providing you, just lookup data, things like that, you can actually incorporate that into these data schemas. So you can use a little bit of the Mockaroo data, a little bit of your own. You can also generate mock APIs from the schemas you create. So, being able to create a custom connector or something like that, right? And use a mock API to kind of test it out, see what it's going to look like. As well as being able to save those schemas and data sets you're creating and share them with others. I put the pricing on here as well for the service. For the free one, it's pretty much what I've mostly used for many, many years. You're limited to 1,000 rows per file or API call and 200 API requests per day. So, for loading data into test systems and things like that, you may not need to go past that. I was working in sales at Microsoft all last year. So lots of demos, lots of just agile development to get those demos created and get test data put in there where I didn't even have data sheets from customers and things to get me going. So really been a savior. I've been using it for many, many years. So pricing on here as well. You'll notice these prices are per year and not per month. So pretty reasonable as well. Going over demos, I kind of wanted to split this into two different parts. Repeatable test data. So again, creating, you set up a new environment, you need to get your test data up and running, or maybe you're creating a new feature for a customer, right? And again, you don't have any data to go off right away. So using Power Automate to create repeatable processes for getting that data in, loading that content. I'm just going to show kind of a basic flow of loading context into a simple model application. Well, it's just an advanced flow. So taking context accounts, bringing them both in through Mockaroo, tying them together, so that your data is actually, more relevant when you're doing that. So just more of an advanced one to help you understand that you can, grab multiple schemas, put data together. The next portion I want to go over is just speeding up UI and UX development. So using this, let's say you're developing a Canvas app. And you're a UI UX developer, you don't really care about the data structure right away, right? You just want to get something up. You want to get something looking good for the client. You don't want to have to create a SharePoint table. You don't want to have to create a Dataverse table because once you do both those, then you still have to load data into them, right? It's more of a very manual process. You can use these schemas, you can use these flows, and you can use Power Automate to just automatically have sample data flow into your Canvas app. One thing I was also going to touch on today too, for those of you who are not aware, there's a new experimental function called ParseJSON available in Canvas apps, where you can actually take a JSON string and actually parse it into an untyped object. So I'll be showing that off today as kind of a little extra bit here. So, and there's also a great video out there by Reza Durrani on how to do this as well. So let me go into the demo. So this is the Mockaroo website. You can see the first thing you're going to get when you get in here, you're going to see a schema already presented to you, right? So they just give you a sample schema, very basic fields, ID, first name, last name, email, gender. You can preview this, kind of get an idea of what this data is going to look like, which I like, download that. Again, as I used to say, I used to just, before I created this connector, come here and download this data, go and do a model application, do an import, an Excel import or CSV import and get it all in. Very, very manual, right? So the idea here is like, let's get this to be automated. So in this instance, I'm actually going to create one just for context, right? So I don't need all these fields. I'm going to get rid of ID, get rid of IP address, gender, just going to create first name, last name, and email. And I'm going to go ahead and add one more field. And I'm going to call this phone. And now types. This is where, again, huge amounts of predefined data types that Mockaroo provides test data for. So you need a fake base64 image URL, app versions, avatars, information about cars, right? A VIN number, commerce, credit card numbers, things like that, right? Obviously, if you're doing a demo or something like that, or just populating a system for test, you're not going to want to put in real credit card numbers, things like that. So location information, personal data, PII data, as I kind of talked about earlier, huge amount of stuff here. For this one, I'm just going to type in phone, grab that. You can see even once I've added phone, I can choose my formatting options, kind of get international type phone numbers. I'm just going to keep it for more of a US type code there. Choose what percentage you want blank. So you don't have to populate everything, right? If you want to leave 20% of them blank, really getting some real looking data out of all this, because I will tell you, salespeople do not always enter the phone number for a person. So go ahead and click there, kind of see what that looks like. Once I've created this schema, I'm ready to go ahead and put it into a flow. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this. Just going to call it test contacts. Copy that. We'll save it off. All right. Here's my little model app, right? It just has contacts, accounts, just so I can kind of see the data going in, just a quick representation of that. And I'll go ahead and build out my flow. So I'm just going to manually trigger this one. Come in here, we'll do Mockaroo. See the new independent connectors that's there, the action for generate data from existing schema. Just going to put in the name of my schema, choose my record count. Again, free accounts limited to 1,000 rows. If you don't put in this number, it'll just default to whatever you saved back in the schema. So in the schema, you can say the number of rows that are in there. So go ahead and put that in there. I'm just going to put 10 in for now. The one thing that this does not, unfortunately, that the API did not offer was a way to return a schema that Power Automate could understand. So one of the things you will have to do with this is use like a ParseJSON action. So typically when building these out, I'll do a quick test after I've added the Mockaroo activity. And I will just grab this body here. I'll add a new ParseJSON action. Choose the body output and generate from sample, paste in the body here. And there we go. Now I can reuse those fields and understand the data types for those fields. So here I'm just going to do a quick add a row. We'll choose our contact table. And I'm just going to fill in one or two fields here. We'll just do first name. And we'll do last name. And because I use the ParseJSON, it knows it's an array, so it already did the apply to each for all those. So I'll go ahead and there, just do a quick save. We'll do a quick test. And again, the idea here is I'm going to create this flow once, and I'm just going to keep reusing it in all the different environments I have. Just put them all in a solution, and move them to all the different demo environments or other UAT environments that I'm going to be using to be able to bring this data in. So if we just hop over here real quick, we can see all the contacts start to come in. There we go. That was pretty fast. So, just very, very quick way to make reusable test data imports using Power Automate. The other piece I wanted to show off again, same thing, right? I'm going out here, I'm getting my accounts. I'm getting 10 different accounts. I'm doing a quick parse on those to get the schema, getting contacts, getting 100 of those. Doing a quick apply to each on those accounts to add those accounts in. And then for each account, I'm just adding 10 more contacts and setting the first contact as the primary contact for the account. So again, just a little more advanced, using that action multiple times to go get two pieces of data and connect them together. So the last part of the demo I want to show, again, for kind of UI, UX designers, being able to just mock up applications very quickly. right? This was an app I was working on yesterday. Maybe I'm a trooper out there going into some unsavory cantinas, checking out some droids, getting their information. I got to see, hey, are they on my most wanted list? So wanted to be able to just, again, not have to worry about finding images, about finding all these names and IP addresses and all that other good stuff. So use Mockaroo very quickly, and I'll show you how I did that. First thing I did, went into Mockaroo, created my schema, right? First name, last name, avatar. So again, all these different data types. This avatar data type actually returns me a HTTP address, a web address to a PNG file for an avatar. So very easy to use, right? I didn't have to go out and find all those images, put them in. Hobbies. This is where datasets come in. Again, uploading your own data and being able to reuse it. So I uploaded this quick data set called Hobbies, just a quick CSV I found on the internet to be able to provide me some data. And then I just chose my data type as dataset column, chose my hobbies as my my data set. Good to go, right? Some of the other things you can do too as well is this actually even does have formulas available. So if you want to manipulate the data before it actually gets turned into test data, you can do that as well. Went ahead and saved that, created a super simple flow, Power Apps trigger, and use the new Mockaroo action that I have. And then you'll see here, I did a response to Power Apps or flow. And the only thing I'm returning here is the JSON string output of this Mockaroo action. Now, if you're not able to use this new ParseJSON functionality, because it is experimental, right? You may not want to use it in your apps yet for production. The other way to usually do this is kind of use an HTTP response at the end of this and kind of do the same thing we did with the ParseJSON action and just take the sample data you get from running the flow, parse that out, creates a schema. That way, when you attach this to your Canvas app, you have the schema, you understand the schema, and can reuse it within the Canvas app. So for this sample, though, I'm going to be doing respond to a Power App or flow. Once I attach that to my app, went in here, so on visible of this form, I'm using that new ParseJSON function. Now, the way to get to that, and if for those of you who've been working on Canvas apps, this is going to be a godsend. So to get that available to you, there are two different things you need to do. Number one, make sure your authoring version is set to 3.22091.11 or above. So that'll get you access to the experimental feature. And then come over here to upcoming features, go over to experimental, down near the bottom, and you can do the ParseJSON function on typed objects. So once you have both those enabled, you can go ahead and do that. So you can see here, all I'm really doing, I'm just running my flow, getting that response string, using that ParseJSON function, which is going to return an untyped object. And I know it's an array, right? I'm bringing back an array of data, so I'm going to just tell Power Apps that it's a table. And I'm setting it here to a variable. This, I could also use clear collect or collect on here to turn it into a collection. I just chose to use a variable for this one. From there, just coming over to my gallery. Again, this is an untyped object, so I have to tell my Power App what the types are for these pieces. But I do get IntelliSense, or actually, sorry, thought I did. I do have to tell it what type it is. So I do have to surround this with like text or Boolean or whatever the data is coming back as. So same thing for, like you can see on my gallery pieces, just again, wrapping those values in the data type. So again, as a UI and UX designer, being able to create a data schema without having to go out and create a data table or create a SharePoint list and loading those things with data, huge advantage. I can just get this up and running, show this to a customer very, very quickly without having to go through that whole process. So just, another use case for all that I wanted to kind of show off. Go back to my slide presentation real quick. So again, my first connector I built, very, very, it was great to get back to the community. And Natalie's been bugging me about this for a little bit. I've built a lot of connectors in my time, but they usually just sit on my GitHub site or they are lost somewhere in some environment. So this was a great opportunity to just be able to get something out. It didn't take me that long to do. The independent publisher certification process in the MS Doc site was great. Schemas also has a great YouTube video out there that guided me kind of step by step to doing all this and getting me going. And then if you want to take a code first approach to doing this, Daniel Askowitz has a VS Studio extension, gives you a ton of snippets to kind of speed up that code first development process with this. And then I'm also going to be at the Microsoft Power Platform Conference next week in Orlando. So I hope to see many of you there. For those of you going, Troy Taylor is going to be having a build and submit an independent publisher connector in under 60 minutes session going on. So make sure you check that out. And thank you all. I look forward to being on these calls more, and as I get more connectors out there, which I plan to do here soon. Thank you.
Rick, very, very cool. Thank you for the voodoo that you do with Mockaroo, right? Excellent job. Really, really appreciate that. And very cool use cases. I think the comments are blowing up with all the new information that's been found here by the community. So thank you for sharing that.